Yeah, I think I was there. I think I was there when Herod was launched, and it was, or at least it was launched in Selfridges. And I think it was November. It was coming to Christmas, and one of the assistants said to me, "Herod coming out near Christmas. It's not very good, is it?" I don't know what the story behind that is. I don't know if it's referring to. I mean, if it's referring to the King Herod. I mean, that guy wasn't a very nice human being. I mean, he killed a lot of newborns. I don't think that's really the image that you want to put across. Parfums De Marly they're a very controversial brand. There's a lot of naysayers about Parfums De Marly. There's a lot of people who say that they're basically a clone brand, but they won't come out as a clone brand, or they are, a lot of their fragrances are very influenced and heavily influenced by, lots of different other fragrances and all that kind of stuff. And some parts of that argument I can see, some parts of that argument I don't agree with. I'm sort of kind of 50-50 split with Parfums De Marly, but I've got to say this, and I also want to say I didn't get this for free or anything. This was bought. I bought this online. I think I got it on either Notino or FragranceNet or one of those sites. Now, I mention that because Parfums De Marly have utilized fragrance YouTube reviewers in a big way, and fair play to them. Parfums De Marly really have my respect in a huge way, because look at what they've managed to accomplish in just 10 years. I think their first release was 2009. We're here now in 2019. They have got such a solid, ravenous fan base. There are people who live and breathe and die by Parfums De Marly. They've become one of the biggest brands in fragrance. They've become an A brand. They are up there selling with the likes of Creed, with the likes of Tom Ford, with the likes of Christian Dior. And so you just can't look at them and go, wow, that's amazing. And what they have done is amazing. And they've utilized a lot of different elements. And one of the things that they have done is that they have, collaborated hugely with the YouTube fragrance community. And some people can look at that and go, oh, that's not good, that's not a great thing. But at least they give us some respect. Do you know how many companies just look at the fragrance YouTube reviewing community especially and just sort of laugh and just think, whatever, those guys can't do anything. Those guys aren't really influencers. They don't write blogs. They don't have Fragrantica articles. They really see us as the lowest of the low. So for the fact that Parfums De Marly came in and said, actually, we are going to respect them. We are going to treat them with some admiration, and we understand that they can influence people. So I'm not affiliated with them. I've never shot one email to them. They've never shot one email to me. Like I said, bought this online, full retail price. So this is my completely honest review. And Herod, I think out of all of them, Herod is probably my favourite. So would you like this? Parfums De Marly fragrances, to me, are all about making a statement. Sometimes even at the cost of the composition of the fragrance itself. I said on my intermediate list, and I'm going to say this again, some of the fragrances don't feel very balanced, and some of them feel as though they're not very focused. It feels as though, right, just make it as strong as humanly possible. We don't care really, like if we have to sacrifice a few notes to get rid of the balance, we just want to make it strong, strength, maximum, no weakness, right? It really is. They're very, very bold. They're usually very sweet. They're usually very gourmand-like. But they also have, a lot of masculine elements. Herod is a perfect example of this. But I think that the reason why Parfums De Marly have managed to capture an audience of their own is because these things can just be so incredibly strong, so incredibly aggressive almost, and that can capture people's imagination. That can fill in a niche in fragrance that not too many fragrances actually even go for. So Herod is a fragrance if you want a very sweet but masculine statement piece. It's a statement piece fragrance, if I'm honest. You put this on, you are 9 times out of 10 going to knock out any regular designer fragrances. Like if you were to go into a club, or if you were to go to like a meetup or whatever, and you knew that there was going to be a lot of people around and you wanted to basically take out all of their fragrances, then Herod is going to do that for you. It is a fragrance that can't really not be noticed, and it is a fragrance that is so loud and so domineering in the air that it can probably sometimes be seen as an affectation, and that is kind of an issue that I have with it, which is it's so brazen. And because people love, beast mode fragrances, and people go, oh, finally, fragrances that last. Now, fragrances that last are very cool, but this is so poppy and so sweet and so, well, it's not that sweet. It isn't, horrendously sweet like, modern designer fragrances like Invictus. But it's got that sweetness. It's got the punchiness, which I'm talking about, that it could maybe even potentially put people off. It could actually be a bit of a turn off. My fragrance reviews have felt a little bit kind of naked without presentation review, so I'm going to do a presentation review. It just feels nice and a bit more complete if I do presentation. So here we go. The presentation with Herod and the Parfums De Marly bottles in general, I find kind of cool, and I do enjoy it, and I think it's interesting, but it feels a little bit incomplete. As in, the bottles look like pre-rendered drafts of what the actual finished bottle is going to look like. I think it looks great and the shape is cool, and one of the great things about it is that when you see a bottle like this, you immediately know it's Parfums De Marly, and that's always great. When you've got an iconography within your bottle that's like just eye-catching and you know that it's that, then that's great. But I don't know, there's just something missing. I think it's because it's just all one colour, nothing really sticks out. And yeah, it just feels as though it's they've made the pre-render bottle on like a computer 3D program, but they didn't get the final 3D artist or the texture artist to actually put anything solid in or anything like that. So that's a weird thing about the presentation, but of course the presentation isn't totally important. It's what is inside the scent. But that is my hot take on the presentation of Parfums De Marly. So I'd give it a 3 out of 5. So let's get to the scent. Now, the man behind this is Olivier Pichot, and just what an interesting and intriguing choice, a cracking choice really, because, well, I think that he's quite a hit and miss perfumier. So he's done a lot of stuff with Diptyque. He did 1 million. He did the original 1 million, and you can tell that the guy who made 1 million made this. You can tell because there's a couple fragrance philosophies that carry on from 1 million into this, and one of the big things is cinnamon. Cinnamon is not a used note, really. It's not a note that's used prolifically in fragrance, especially when it comes to kind of high stakes men's, perfumery that have to be big sellers, and especially in the way that Olivier does it. So I think that in his mind, cinnamon can mean power and it can mean masculinity. And I think that that's a rare idea in fragrances in general, but you have that in 1 million, of course, and you have that with Herod. Now, the cinnamon isn't as brazen and all-encompassing as 1 million, but it's in there, and it's actually a very good backbone to the fragrance, and it just keeps everything together. Olivier Pichot also did 3 Duettos, and Duetto is one of my favourite brands in fragrance, and he did the 3 really, really good oud ones. He didn't do the really bad oud one, which is Uber, and I can totally see that. So you've got a guy who has some of his biggest releases have been fragrances that need to make a statement, need to be loud, need to be really out there, need to be very domineering, and the duettos are really, really domineering. 1 Million is incredibly domineering. And so what a great choice. So when you first spray this on, the note breakdown on Fragrantica is absolutely like solid, actually. It really is. What you see is what you smell. You get the pepper, you get tobacco, you get a hunk of vanilla, and you get cinnamon. And if I'm honest, I mean, the pepper is really interesting, actually, the way that the pepper is done, because it isn't like in your face, you know, I've just poured like peppercorns all over you. It's a really, really well blended pepper into the whole composition that's just really, really a stroke of brilliance. So you have that, but with the vanilla and the cinnamon and the tobacco and other elements that I don't really get as much in here. There's like musk and I think there's vetiver listed. You could have fooled me. But the first opening to me is actually kind of hazelnutty. It's hazelnutty with vanilla and cream and a bit of cocoa. And if I'm honest, in the first few minutes, if you take out the pepper, I actually get a Kinder Bueno. Right? I really, really smell a Kinder Bueno with that hazelnutty, chocolatey accord. A bit of I wouldn't even say Nutella. Nutella and Kinder Buenos are very different. It's more the Kinder Bueno because the Kinder Bueno has the wafer underneath, which gives it a crispiness, which is like the tobacco in this. So that's what I get. And it's lovely and it's pleasant, but that dies down after about 20-25 minutes, and then you really start to get the more manly, spicier accords. But then it sort of goes a bit wild and is sort of a bit off track for me, which is I actually get a sort of a feminine white floral, and that actually reminds me of the female Dolce & Gabbana's The One, which also has a very prevalent vanilla, but it also has lily. And there is something in here that reminds me of that. So I'm like, hang on a minute, are we going for the strong, you know, masculine, tobacco-laced spiciness, or are we going into this kind of more feminine, florally kind of thing? And that does bother me for a few minutes, but then it does seem to settle down. But it feels as though there are just kind of two elements of itself kind of fighting for dominance, and that kind of comes out in the fragrance because it's incredibly strong and incredibly prevalent. But I can get over that, and after that it's fine and it's great. There's an intriguing phenomenon that happens with fragrances when you're really into it and you've been collecting and you've been really into it for a long time, which is you start to recognize fragrances that when you initially smell them you go, okay, I don't really like that, but you know in the back of your head that you're going to like it eventually, you're going to grow to it, and that's because of experience. I could name 3 fragrances off the top of my head. Royal Oud, great example of that, and probably something like Oud Isfahan, where I smelt it initially and I was like, no, I don't really like that, but then I actually went, oh right, actually that is really cool and I really like it. Royal Oud is probably the biggest and most extreme example. I couldn't live without Royal Oud now, and I really didn't like it. Oud Wood, another one, perfect example, where I first smelt it and thought, geez, give me a break. Now I'm going to be taking 3 days off to go to Edinburgh. The scent I'll be taking is Oud Wood, because it's just become a huge part of my life. And so when I smelt Herod initially, it was a very unusual experience because I thought, I don't really like this yet, but I know that there's something about it that's going to keep drawing me back, and of course that did happen, and here we are. I really like the scent. I think it's a well-made scent, but I do feel as though there was probably a sort of a tussle between the perfumier and the brand owner. I don't know if that's true, I have no idea, but it feels sometimes as though it's like, yo, okay, this is great, but turn it up. It's like that scene from Spinal Tap when they get the amp and it goes all the way to 11. Well, why is it going to 11? Because it can go all the way to 11. We want to turn everything up to 11. And that's a lot of the Parfums De Marly fragrances. It feels as though they get a composition and then they go, no, well, we need it louder. We need it more of a statement. We need it stronger. We need it to be, all that. But on the whole, it's a great scent, and it's been very kind to me in autumn. I've really enjoyed wearing it in the colder days. Today is a perfect day for Herod, absolutely perfect. sunny, blue sky, but it's cool and it's cold. This is the kind of day when Herod shines. Projection longevity, I'm not even going to talk about that for too long because it's a beast. It's incredible. Projection 5, you know, you have to be careful. It's not a fun 5. It's not like, oh my god, you know, isn't this so great? It's actually, you've got to be careful on the trigger, but it's really loud as hell. Longevity, again, loud as hell. Especially if you spray this on clothes, you're going to have to physically wash your clothes to, you know, to return it back. So in that area, both an incredible 5 out of 5. It's a really stunning achievement. So compliments. The thing is that I've only started wearing it properly recently, in the past month. I've had it for about 2 months, and so it's not enough really to garner the kind of compliments that you know. But I haven't had any. It's strange. It's very strong and it's very loud, but I haven't actually had any mentions. Not one yet, but I could imagine that changing. It's not as likable as some of the other fragrances that I have, and this isn't necessarily a fragrance that I'm known. This kind of fragrance is not necessarily a fragrance that I'm known for wearing. So it could be cognitive dissonance. I don't know, but no, not a compliment yet. But you know, speaking from experience, it definitely has that potential. And finally, price point. You know what? I think it's pretty bloody good, to be honest. People can rag on Parfums De Marly for the price point and say, oh god, they're so expensive. But in today's world, going up against Creed and Amouage and all these other like high-priced, you know, frickin' Roja Dove and Xerjoff and all this kind of stuff, they're loud, they're proud, they're statement pieces. You can't complain with the performance. And the scents, although sometimes I find some of the scent compositions a little bit wonky, hey, I'm rocking it, I'm enjoying it. £160 for 125 milliliter nonetheless. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. I'd give that a big thumbs up. 75 mil, you can get as low as, well, that's one of the only problems actually, because on a lot of the stores that I've seen, the price point between the 75 and the 125 is so ridiculously minuscule that you might as well just get the 125. The 75s are quite redundant really, and I don't actually know why they have them. I think they should just maybe go for the 125 or lower the price of the 75, you know, because the price difference makes the 75 look very redundant. Herod is a lovely, wonderful, powerful fragrance that if you're wanting to push yourself with these fragrances, or if you, I mean, this could be a great first niche for somebody. There's no question about that. This could, you know, if you're wanting, especially in the autumn and the wintertime, you want a powerful, sweet fragrance that is, you know, all the things that I've mentioned. Strong, out there, pungent, with a good amount of sweetness and sugar and, you know, good hazelnutty, tobacco-y vibes. That's really going to give you a sort of a masculine punch. Then, yeah, I would totally recommend Herod for that. It's great. It's a good fragrance. Not the best I've ever smelled, but certainly not the worst. And for somebody who's wanting to move on to niche, absolutely perfect. Anyway, I would give Herod overall a solid 4 out of 5. Well done, chaps. Right, that was my review of Herod. I hope that you got the information that you wanted and you got the take that you were maybe expecting from me. You know, I have mentioned it a couple times very recently. Until I see you tomorrow, I'm the Fragrance Apprentice, and I'm going to enjoy my lovely walk here in the English countryside. I'll see you again. Bye.